You already explained that.
I did not. Power culture. Did I? No.
Oh, you explained.
Yeah.
Core
So,
organization.
no, those are the factors that determines if the structure or the culture is strong or weak. The core values, the face value of the organization, the appearance. So now we go into classification of company culture. So according to Charles Andy, in his book Understanding Organization in 1993, he said we have 4 classifications of culture, like organizational culture. We have power culture, we have task culture, we have person culture, and we have role culture. So those are the 4 classification of culture according to Charles Andy. So we start with power culture. So for power culture, what does that imply? I wrote, this is one where there is a central source of power responsible for decision making. So here, this ensures that there is always a competitive atmosphere among employees as to who gain the power. So for power culture, what it simply means is that anyone who has an objective within that organization to carry out its own things must have to just for power. So so whatever happens in that organization, it will be based on that one person who has that power to change things around. So that's what we mean by power culture. Do you get power culture here? The way in which the organization will be run will be based on that individual who has that power. So the culture in that organization, the organizational culture of that organization is what's central. So if you really need to put things straight in that organization in your own way, you need to fight for that, or you need to fight for power. So it is politically oriented. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Yeah. It's politically oriented. So it is that person who has the power that has the ability to put things his own way or her own way. That is power culture. Is it clear? Is it clear? Then we have the task culture. So for task culture, in this type of culture, power is given to those who can complete a task. So power lies on those who have expertise rather than particular role or political role. Do you get it? So you will be given that task. You will be given that power. You will have the ability to run the organization because you can complete a task based on your expertise. Then you can make things, you can get things done. So your power lies within your ability to be able to complete task. Do you understand what it means by task culture? So in this organization, we give power to those who have expertise, who can complete, who are efficient. Do you get it? Unlike power role, that power lies on an individual who have the authority. Is it clear? Task culture. Then we have, that's task culture. Then we have the role culture. For role culture, decisions are made through well-established rules and procedures. Remember I told you about procedures. Procedures are the ways in which we carry out these policies or these rules. Are you with me? Yes. So influence and control lies with the roles that individual play rather than with the individual. So for role culture, how you control that organization depends on the role you play, not who you are. Do you get it?
Yes, sir.
For power culture, it is who you are. Oh, you have the central authority, so you control the culture. You ensure that things are done the way you want it. But for role culture, it is the role you play. Oh, you are the financial manager in this organization. So everything about finance comes with you. Every policies, procedures about finance lies on your hand.
You're only responsible for one.
Yeah, that's what we mean by role culture. Is it clear? Okay. Then the last one is person culture. For person culture, I said this is one where there are numbers of individuals in the business who have expertise but who don't necessarily work together. So here, for person culture, it depends on what you do, your professional line. Oh, you're an accountant. Oh, you are a lawyer. Oh, you're a doctor. So this is who you are, and the role will be the power will lie on what you can do. Do you get the difference between them?
Yeah.
For power culture, that individual who has the power states the rules in that organization. For role culture, the role you play in the organization determines the kind of power you have in that organization. For task culture, it means if you are able to complete task, that means based on your expertise, you are so efficient. So those that are efficient enough in that organization have the power to control the organization. That's task culture. Then the last one is person culture. What you do, your professional line. So if you're an accountant, the power within accountancy comes from you. If you are a lawyer, you will be helped. The company will help you to achieve your goals. That is what person culture is about. The company helps you. The company helps that individual to achieve his or her aims. That is person culture. For role culture, the role you play will determine what kind of things you do within that organization. Any question about classification of culture? It's clear, right? Yeah. So you can have the activity done now. So we continue with, now we go to how corporate culture is formed. So when you talk about how corporate culture is formed, this implies to the factors that contribute to how a corporate culture is formed. That means the factors that we need to put that contributes to how a company or a business forms its corporate culture. Number one, we have the environmental factor, we have the type of the environmental factor, we have the type of products, and the role of the founding members. So we start with the role of the founding members. So when you talk about the role of the founding members, we're talking about those that start the business, those that set up the business, the entrepreneurs that set up that business. Their personality, what they do, who they are, will determine the kind of organizational culture they use. Do you get what we're talking about here? Yeah. So the role they play, their personality, their beliefs, their values, how they are, what makes them what they are, could determine the kind of organizational culture their business uses. So this is one of the factors that determines or that contributes to the way an organizational culture is formed. So the owner of the business has his own way of life, yes or no?
Yes.
So his way of life might be used to form the organizational culture. Is it clear? So that's number one. Two, the environmental factor. When we talk about environmental factor, we're talking about the history or traditions of the organization, of the business. So the history of the business will determine the organizational culture of that business, will contribute to the organizational culture of that business. Oh, this is what we are. This is who we are as a business. And whatever we do must be in line with what we portray ourselves to be. So we have history. So we don't change our history. Just like FIFA and Nike. FIFA and Nike. Yeah. So it's a long way culture. So it might not be easy for them to change because we know whenever you see FIFA, you see Nike, something like that. So the kind of culture we use might be based on our tradition or our history. Is it clear?
Yeah.
And the third one, the type of products. So the type of products, what does that imply? The kind of products we produce will determine the kind of workforce we have. So if the products we produce are very complex products, that means we need expertise to produce them, right? Yes. So because we need expertise, they might need to use what? Role culture. Do you get what I'm saying here? Because the kind of product we produce can also contribute to our organizational culture. Do you get it? If the product is complex, you need experts. So because you need experts, what do you have to do? You have to use a different kind of organizational culture, maybe using role culture, maybe using person culture, so that you can help those experts. Is it clear? Yes. So the last thing we need to talk about, that's all about how culture, organizational culture, or corporate culture is formed. We form it based on the personalities of the founding members. We form it based on the kind of products we produce. If it's a complex product, we might need experts for role culture. And the last one is the environment we have the environmental factor, which talks about our history or the tradition of the business. Then lastly, the difficulties in changing an established culture. The culture is there. That means it's in line with our operation. So to change this culture, it might be so difficult. So most of the time, what do businesses do? They try to employ leaders that are trusted and are respected and very strong. Because if you have leaders that are strong and respected, whatever they tell you, you will trust them. You will listen to them. Do you get it?
Yeah.
So here I wrote, changing the company's culture is not easy, as there are certain aspects in the workforce that cannot be manipulated, such as workers' attitude, their beliefs. These things cannot be easily changed. It's my belief, it's my attitude. It might not be easily changed. Things that you can change are the policies, the rules, the working aspect, the way we work. These things can change because they are tangible. But when you talk about changing my belief, changing my attitude, it might be so difficult. That's why they said the most difficult things to manage are human. And what are those things that you can't manage in human? Their attitude, their beliefs. So for culture to be easily changed, what do you need? You need a company to employ leaders that are strong and are respected. That is the only way you can successfully change an established culture. Remember when we talked about the factors that contribute, the factors that determine the effects of organizational culture. We talked about motivation, we talked about organizational culture, structure, and new management. So when you talk about the new management, what did I tell you? When the company changes the way it chooses its management, it means that the company wants the new management to challenge the existing culture. Do you get it?
Yes.
So for you to challenge the existing culture, you need to bring in leaders that are respected and trusted.
Mhm.
Is it clear?
Yeah.
Any question about that?
No.
Any question?
No.
So that's all about corporate culture. So you have to do the